everyone, and welcome to another episode of 1923 Main Street.
Home of the Disney Travel Podcast with the latest Disney travel news. We are your hosts.
I am Mike Bella Braddock.
And I'm Amelia Bella Braddock. And today, an exciting new storyline was unveiled for Tiana's Bayou Adventure, as well as some delays for Mickey's Toontown in Disneyland Park.
Yes, if you are planning a Disneyland vacation, we'll start with Toontown. They have delayed the opening of Toontown by what, 2 weeks, roughly?
It's not even 11 days, but...
So it was supposed to be March 8th, and it is now March 19th.
But if you're like us and that's your March break...
Yeah, I was thinking,
Tuck left there, kids.
The reason is, if you've watched the news or if you live in California, you know it's been a lot of torrential rains out there. So they're saying due to weather, they're behind schedule. But it'll be a shame if there's some family whose kids, we're going to be in Toontown, it's opening. They're so excited. That's their week. No Toontown. It's not open. So
a bit of a disappointment.
It is delayed. Things happen, but just bear that in mind if you have an upcoming vacation. So March 19th is the new proposed date for the opening.
Yes.
And speaking of closures, it's going to be harder to get your steps if you're staying at Disney's Grand Floridian Resort.
Oh, no, because unfortunately the walkway is temporarily closing.
It barely just opened.
Darn it.
As we've reported many times in the past, Disney's Grand Floridian Resorts is going through a pretty significant refurbishment right now. It's over a year long. I mean, this is a long one. They're doing all the rooms and the main lobby.
So the walkway has already been closed, and it will not reopen until quote-unquote late spring.
Well, here's what I don't get. So they're either probably doing the club level rooms, which are right there, and then there's another building.
Well, they said they are.
There's another, but they're doing them all. But I mean, why is the walkway closing? Because
I don't care. I'm happy.
It actually goes between those two areas, and they've done all the other buildings with just sort of scaffolding surrounding the buildings. So I'm not quite sure. Well, I guess we'll see, because we're going to be there in a few weeks.
Darn.
Staying at the Grand, so we'll see. I know you're upset because
it's just so upsetting.
We love walking. I waited 50 years for that walkway, about.
I love after a long day walking around Magic Kingdom Park in the hot sun to get to walk another probably quarter of a mile.
It's only handy to avoid the fireworks lines.
Still not then. I still don't like it.
So we'll be stuck on boat and monorail. At least there are still two options. But
seats. Darn it.
So that will be closed, late spring, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Maybe if we're super lucky.
It'll probably be open again for the summer.
No, I mean for March break.
No.
That's definitely not late spring, mid-March.
No.
Although it feels like spring here, where we are. It's, all the snow's gone. And so if you're not in Canada and you think it's all snowy here, it's not. It's definitely much warmer than when I was a kid. Anyway, so that's closing. And now the big story, the one we want to talk about most of all. Disney they did a new storyline reveal for Tiana's Bayou Adventure. But the real story is what's sort of in between, reading between the lines. There's a lot of hints here, I think, to what's going to happen. And some I've seen other people catching on to, but there's one I think that I haven't read that I have a theory that how this is all really coming together. First, let's talk about the storyline a little bit. It's just sort of neat what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, so basically the whole point of Tiana is that Tiana loves cooking and she wants to get her dreams of a restaurant. And so as we know, Tiana's Palace is coming to Disneyland Park as a part of that, but Walt Disney Imagineering is adding now more to the story. So it will start in the queue for Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and Tiana has transformed an aging salt mine and built a much-loved brand. So she's,
her own Tiana's brand.
Yeah, exactly. She's starting kind of a new entrepreneurship in the Magic Kingdom. So the entire project includes a boutique farm and both a working and teaching kitchen. Tiana's Foods is where Tiana creates all sorts of new products, including a line of original hot sauces.
Yeah, that one has me interested. We'll get back to that.
So how hot are these sauces?
And then it says Tiana also wants to thank her family and friends and the entire community. This is all part of the queue, supposedly. And their support, so they're expecting us to be in line for a long time. And they're supporting her by throwing a big Mardi Gras party. And then turns out there's a bit of a mix-up with the party preparations, and Tiana invites us, the guests, to help her at Tiana's Foods. I guess this is how the ride comes into it, to get the missing ingredients for the party. So I guess we're on the boats trying to find the missing ingredients. But here's where it gets interesting if you start thinking about all of that. So here's what we know, and here's what I'm going to start with. I'll start with this, and you tell me what you think. So first of all, I'm pretty sure we're going to see some Tiana hot sauce in the little shop
Well, I
there.
mean, they're tempting us now.
Yeah, so I'll be definitely trying those, as I love hot sauces, and I hope they do make an actual hot one. I also have a feeling we may see a new party.
Well, it's really interesting because a Magic Kingdom Mardi Gras party would kind of fit the bill, also because they don't really have an after-hours party going on around that time of year.
And they don't do any Mardi Gras stuff at all, so this could be pretty cool. And
we know Disney loves their parties.
Yeah,
so.
this would be a great ticketed event. They could have a lot of fun with it. The new costumes they could create and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, beads, of course.
Decorations and overlays, definitely.
And then there's one that has some mixed feelings for people, and I did too until I thought it out. So we know Pecos Bills is closing for refurbishment.
Yeah,
but what do we think that really means?
Pecos Bills could potentially be turning into, let's say, the new Tiana restaurant.
Yeah.
Like they have in Disneyland.
Exactly. And maybe it's named Tiana's Foods like they were talking about. So I want to get to this in a minute, but I think the restaurant's pretty big. Pecos Bills is a big space. So they're talking about a teaching kitchen and having kids learning. And I have a feeling they could do Tiana's Foods and they could have a little thing like Jedi training used to be, where kids come in for a paid event and Tiana teaches them how to cook with a helper, of course. Yeah. She'll oversee it.
Yeah. It's also a little bit interesting because this kind of doesn't really fit with the theming of Frontierland as we know, because it's sort of in the middle.
Yeah, this is where it gets
Big
upset.
Thunder, but there's still stuff before it if you're going through the Magic Kingdom. So potentially this could mean some major updates.
So this is where people were getting upset saying, oh, great. Now you're going to have Splash Mountain becoming Bayou Adventure. Now you're going to make Pecos Bills into a Tiana restaurant. Frontierland is now a muddled mess, which would be true unless we think back to the big news we talked about after D23 that everyone got lost. Really, it didn't get as much attention as I think it should deserve. And then Bob Iger, when he came back, talked about billions of dollars they're spending. What do we think is going to happen? Here is my prediction and or guess.
We think, and this would make sense as well. So basically, you walk into Frontierland, the start is the same, and then when you hit what used to be Splash Mountain and is now Tiana's area, you sort of have like the bayou.
Yeah, and Pecos Bills would be part of that because it's literally right across. It's right next to it, so it would work.
It makes sense that they would try to theme those similarly, and then you would still have Big Thunder as it is, but basically what they said at the D23 Expo was they had stuff, quote, beyond Big Thunder Mountain, so maybe Big Thunder's like kind of the edge of town almost, theoretically. And then beyond that, they have all of their new stuff, making it sort of almost like a separate land or a much expanded version of what used to be Frontierland.
It's exactly what I think. And it all light bulbs started going off. So here's how I envision it. I think they'll call it Frontier Walk. I don't know, something like that. It's not Frontierland anymore, sort of like Liberty Square. And that would go into Frontier Walk. And you would still go past sort of where the Country Bears are and then all the shops. And then as soon as you hit Pecos Bills, which would now be Tiana's, you're entering the bayou. So they could transition the land. It is old in time, so I think they could do it. Tiana's
it's
set
1920s.
In the 20s. Yeah. So they could do it. And then you go past that. And they did call it Beyond Big... Now, this is what they were saying, Beyond Big Thunder Mountain. So exactly what Amelia just said is what I think. That would essentially become the entry to that whole new land, which includes what?
It includes the Encanto-themed house, the Madrigal Magical Casita. It includes the Coco area. It includes the Villains area, which we're most excited for. It includes a lot of stuff going on behind Big Thunder Mountain.
So I was one, like many of you listening, who was mad going, how are they messing up the theming? Like they're just going to mess up the lands by just shoving the bayou in the middle of Frontierland.
Because the whole thing was 7 lands and more.
Yeah.
But
this could work. As one who was upset, I'm thinking, all right, I'm all for progress as long as you make it work, right? It's got to make sense. Otherwise, it becomes universal. Everything is just plopped all over the place. It's good, but there's no organized theme. And one of Disney's big edges was thoughtful intent with their theming of the lands and the way things flow from one to the other.
It just scares me a little bit because it's like if they're not making it Frontierland anymore, what are they going to call it? Because everything else is a land. You have Fantasyland,
no, they have
Tomorrowland.
No, it's not. That's why I think it'll work.
I know,
There's
but
Liberty
that's what
Square.
I'm saying. They're starting to change things up a little
just
bit.
like they have New Orleans Square in Disneyland. So it actually works there because it's already called New Orleans Square.
Yeah.
So I think if you go Frontier Walk, because it'll just be a little walk between... Frontier Walk, that's what I'm calling it. Between Liberty Square and the Bayou. So you'll go from Liberty Square to Frontier Walk to the Bayou. But Frontier Walk will essentially have no rides. It's just, right?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like a walkway.
Yeah, so because Frontierland will now have, other than the shooting gallery, which isn't really a ride.
And Country Bear Jamboree.
Yeah, there's that. That's the only attraction really in it. I mean, there's some dining and shops. But yeah, so Frontier Walk or something like that. I just completely made that up. So if it's called that, I'm going to mock up a sign actually and post it this week.
To get into the Disney Imagineer feeds.
Yeah. So anyway, Frontier Walk to the Bayou and then into Beyond Big Thunder. And this way they take Big Thunder out of Frontierland and just make it its own thing as an entryway to the whole new world.
That makes sense. Well, they could kind of almost keep it similar theming because the thing with Big Thunder is it's supposed to be this, runaway train type situation. So you could almost have it be sort of as if the runaway train is taking you to these new lands like the Madrigal House and whatever they're doing with Villains and Coco and stuff like that, because it's sort of like I'm picturing
it's too bad they couldn't make it the end somewhere else and then the sort of train comes back.
Like the mountain on the edge of town or so. Like, that's sort of the way that I'm picturing it.
So before what seemed to be a ragtag mess, was this all carefully planned in advance? Will this even happen?
Well, I've learned enough from the Celebrity Inns that I'm in to know what looking for Easter eggs and grasping at straws is, but I think this could potentially have some merit to it.
I think this makes sense. We started, when I was reading that, all the light bulbs and the dots started connecting, so... Let's hope it goes that way.
But it's like, how far in advance can they hint at something? I'm excited to see. Let's see what Disney's planning.
Yeah, so let us know. Would you like this? Would you like Frontier Walk to the... Well, we know the Bayou's coming, so or whatever they call it. I called it that before they even announced this.
Well, it's Tiana's...
As you may recall.
It's Tiana's Bayou Adventure, so it would make sense
we can call it the Bayou.
That it's in the Bayou. Otherwise, it's like Tiana's Where Adventure? It would make sense strategically for them to call it that.
So we'll keep a watch. We'll let you know as we hear more. But I'm one who would be happy with that since they are changing it, as long as they make it make sense as much, as much as it makes sense to walk from Fantasyland to the future. but anyway, in Disney terms, at least they can, somehow theme it.
As long as they slap land on the end of it, I will be content.
I don't mind. Would you don't like Frontier Walk?
I like Frontier Walk. I just think they need like a new land. They need to call whatever Beyond Big Thunder Mountain is something land.
All right, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see.
And then I will be happy.
To see how they do theme that.
Yeah, it's interesting because then they kind of have to change more of the theming of Magic Kingdom because it doesn't really make sense if you have that whole area, but then still Fantasyland and Tomorrowland. It doesn't make as much sense cohesively on the maps.
All right, that is the show for this week. Lots of fun stuff, reading between the lines and closures and delays. So we'll forget about the closures and delays and think about this could be pretty cool with all this new stuff. So if this is happening this way, we will be getting some new announcements about where that money is going to be spent, I would imagine. The good part is all that construction would be behind, right? It's not going to shut anything down.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have to, it's not going to look like Epcot with walls everywhere.
Well, maybe that's what the Grand is looking like now. We don't know.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. We'll see what they're doing.
I still just want another park. It's a little bit selfish,
I still want another park as well. But that's another show.
Come on, guys. It's been too long.
We still have Wakanda to work in there.
True.
Anyway, we'll see what happens. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you, as always, for following along at 1923 Main Street. We'll see you again next week, and have a magical day.
Bye-bye.